All right, welcome back. We've got our weekly stock market update and another red week this week. You can see on this weekly heat map, we've got a lot of deep red, a few green tiles here, but more red than we do have green. So technology continuing to sell off. You've got the financial selling off, the retail names selling off. Everywhere selling off except for this week. We've got the energy sector and utilities had a good week. Some manufacturing names doing well as well. And then you also had Nvidia with the standout here for technology, as well as Broadcom. And we've got Apple with a big down week this week, down 9%. So we'll talk more about Apple in just a moment. And let's take a look at the indices. The S&P 500 did enter a correction this week. We were down 10.5%. Friday, today, we had a nice bounce. We had a nice bounce last Friday. That was followed up with one of the worst days in the stock market this Monday. So we'll see what next week brings us. It's going to be definitely another volatile week. So we'll see what happens. Nasdaq, similar story here. We are currently in a correction. Nasdaq got down to 14% at its lows this week from its recent high, but a nice bounce here this Friday as well. Gold hit an all-time high. You've got oil chopping sideways, not doing a whole lot. And Bitcoin, a little recovery here this week, nothing substantial. I do want to talk about volatility because we got into the green zone. Now, anytime the VIX is in the green zone, I buy something. Maybe I don't buy a whole lot this week. I didn't buy a whole lot, but on Monday when the market is as red as it is, I have to buy something. So I personally picked up some Nvidia and some Amazon, and I think that was it. But very small buys, nothing real substantial. I'm still waiting for a little bit juicier buys. If you watch my shopping list video, I've got my buy targets planned out. We hit some of those this week and last week, but nothing else since then. So I'm interested with volatility. This is a pretty nice collapse here on the volatility. Where do we go from here? That's what I'll be looking at for next week. We do have the Federal Reserve meeting, so we'll see what that brings. That could bring even more collapse on volatility, or that could shoot us back up. And, the world of Twitter. We have a president who's on Twitter all the time, so, who knows where we go from here. As far as some individual names, or let's talk about the yields. Yields were rising this week. We had a low of 4.1 earlier this month, and we are creeping back up. So next week with the Federal Reserve meeting, that'll be a big mover for the yields, one way or another. We'll have to wait and see, and we'll have to see what they say. That's going to be just as important as if what they decide to do. Okay, so now let's get into some individual names. As far as our usual suspects, pretty flat week. Google flat, Amazon flat, Tesla, little recovery this week. But again, a lot of these stocks were so oversold, just like the market. It's normal for them to have a little bounce. Nvidia was the big mover this week, as you can see. But when we are zooming out, it's just another bounce in a downtrend. So we had the DeepSeek sell-off. We reclaimed all of that. We've got the tariff sell-off, I guess is what we'll call this. So maybe we get back up here into the 130s. We need to get over 140s for me to really feel more comfortable that we're coming out of this downtrend. So Nvidia was the standout this week. And I want to talk about if this is just another bounce for the market and we're going to continue this trend of lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower high, lower lows. I'm looking at something like Meta. It'll be interesting if Meta will finally crack, because Meta's still been holding up its uptrend here pretty well. This looks like a blow off top. This was maybe a little bit of exuberance that quickly gave it back, but we're still back to where we were at the beginning of the year. So I'm looking for Meta to maybe give up some of its gains if we do have a continued sell-off. Now, the chart that looks very similar to Meta was Apple. So before this week, Apple and Meta look very similar, where we are in this sustained uptrend. We had this kind of exuberance top here, gave it back, had a nice recovery, and then boom. So I'm expecting the next headline for Meta that's not so pleasant for it to react similar to Apple here. Now, when it comes to Apple, they had a headline for their AI phones. I've talked about Apple. I don't see the huge next catalyst for them, and they kind of got away with saying, hey, come buy our iPhones. We've got all this Apple intelligence that'll be coming soon. And now they said, after people have bought the phones, actually it's not coming soon, it's coming in 2026. And that was just basically an omission, that they are way behind on the AI game, and they're not looking to really make any big moves anytime soon. So what's the reason for someone to go upgrade a device is basically what the market is sniffing out here. Now, Meta, they've been an AI play for a long time, but I don't know about you guys, I don't use Meta at all for AI. I go on Instagram a couple times a week, that's it. So I could see another headline saying Meta's fallen behind in the open source AI game, and then boom, it's down 5% in a day, down 12% in a week, something like that. Again, I'm not making a prediction. I'm just looking around and seeing what is plausible here. If the market keeps coming down, I would expect Meta to maybe start pulling back. Palantir is another similar stock where huge uptrend, blow off top, giving that back. Maybe we're due to get back into the 65 range, maybe even below that. Kind of give back some of this exuberance that we had the last few months. So that's just my thought. The market is it's made up of a bunch of stocks. So we need these stocks that make up the market to keep coming down. Now, some of these are already just getting destroyed, like Tesla. So Tesla's not going to drag the market down by itself. Its other counterparts need to do their job as well if we're going to keep going down. So people are going to look around and say, what am I still green on the last 3 months? What can I trim and get rid of? And some of these names that I'm mentioning may be the culprit of that. So that is all I got for some of the individual names. We've gone over the usual suspects plenty. And like I said, most of these stocks kind of went down and recovered towards the end of the week. Nothing too crazy besides the ones we talked about. This week we did have inflation numbers, and they came in a little better than expected. So CPI came in at 0.28. Forecast was 2.9. So just slightly better. Again, this is nothing to spook anyone either way. We're not seeing a crazy cool off in the economy, which means recession is here, but we're not also seeing rampant inflation, which means the Fed needs to raise rates. So really not a whole lot to talk about on the inflation number. The consumer sentiment number this morning was a lot worse than projected. So 57.9, forecast 63.1. So just another weak consumer number, and that's reflecting in the retail stocks. Next week, we've got retail sales on Monday morning, so that'll be another indicator on how the consumer's doing. We'll see. But Wednesday is going to be the Fed meeting. So Wednesday looks like 11 o'clock Pacific time. You're going to have the funds rate decision. Are they going to cut? Are they going to hold? I expect them to hold. I don't think they've seen enough for them to cut. I don't think they see the jobs market being super weak. I don't think they see inflation really cooling off like they really want it to. So I think they'll hold steady and say the same speech that the same canned speech that they've rolled out for the last year and a half. We have a dual mandate, steady employment, and low prices. So we'll see what they say there. Again, I listen to these statements to see the questions. There's going to be a lot of interesting questions around policy and tariffs and politics and all this stuff. So it'll be interesting to see what goes on there. And then if they do change some of their, what do they change in that canned speech? Because they really give the same lines, but they may swap out a couple of words here and there that kind of dictate where they're going. So it's such a funny dance that the Fed does. It's very, sounds dumb, but it's interesting in some ways. So that's going to be it for next week. You've got some unemployment claims, but the Fed meeting is going to be the big news. So that's it. Another big week this week. We'll see if the market gets a little follow through to the upside. We're probably due for a green week, but I don't think that was the end of the selling. But it wouldn't surprise me if we get a green week or a couple green days before the selling resumes. So that's all I got for this week. Have a great weekend and peace out.